Let's get started in the usual way. And we do that by just setting our motivation. So please think that the purpose of your life is to benefit all sentient beings. And therefore, in order to benefit sentient beings in the most effective way, you must first achieve the highest state of complete enlightenment. Then only then will you have the skills, qualities, the knowledge to guide sentient beings from the oceans of samsaric suffering to the state of liberation and enlightenment. And therefore, since the attainment of enlightenment is not without causes and conditions, you need to learn about all those causes. You need to learn about the various practices that lead to enlightenment. And therefore, you are going to receive this teaching on the Lam Rim. Okay. And then we also can do this with the taking refuge in generating bodhicitta. So what I just guided you through is bodhicitta, but we also tend to recite this verse as well, so we can do that. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha Dharma and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha Dharma and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha Dharma and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Okay. So let's see. Share something else. Oops. Am I showing this? Oh, I see. Okay. One second. Okay. So, welcome to the third session of Module 6, all about karma, put on by the good folks at Ocean of Compassion Center. Oh no. Sorry, we're way past all this. Okay. All right. So just to recap, right? Remember we had these outlines from Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand, developing believing faith in law of cause and effect, the root of all health and happiness, which then in turn has three outlines. So in the last class, yes, before we get into all that, actually, I wanted to bring this up. Okay. Right. So I had sort of have an open invitation for all of you. Hold on, before you start reading, I have something to say. Right. So I have an open kind of invitation for all of you. Right. I invited you to, as you go through the reading, to come up with questions, things that sort of interest you, doubts that you have, and then it's good to share those. So I had a few questions come in over the past week. And this first one, I wanted to bring up at the beginning here. The other two I'll bring up toward the end of the class. But this one here is about the motivation, okay? And let's bring it up here, okay? So at the beginning of the text, so by the way, I encourage all of you to do this, and I very much appreciate, So yeah, send it to me. You can send it to Mary Ellen, and those will get to me. And either I will make sure I weave it in to the class the next week, or I will address it directly like I am now. So this question is about the motivation. And so, since the beginning of the classes, we adjust our motivation, then I think it's good to talk about it now. All right. At the beginning of the text, it is proposed to make a decision about refuge based on fear because of the lower realms. I agree that this may be a working method, but what about the motivation / basis? The motive here is to act from fear. We always have a choice. We can act from different motives. Why not choose a positive one? If something is based on fear, it is not truly viable. We know that karmic results multiply themselves. So eventually fear only breeds more fear in the future, doesn't it? It is like pouring dirty water on a flower or tree. Yes, maybe it'll grow, but why not use a clean water from the very beginning? Okay. All right. So now, remember, we're training all of you to be, propagators of the Dharma teachings within a couple of years, right? So this is always good, right? Just some general thing. Why I like questions so much, okay? One, it can help you think about something different. But the other thing is, you can think or come to realize how other people, when they read this text, what things come to their mind, right? And so oftentimes as when you start to teach, or, even when you start to attend more teachings, then you hear certain things kind of come up again and again, right? And then some things you can then sort of know, oh, well, in general, on the section of karma, a lot of people tend to have these types of questions, right? So then when you are giving a presentation on it, you can then, incorporate those potential doubts into your teaching, right? So this one, actually, I think many of you who had been here in the other sessions would know. But anyway, if we had more time, I would ask some of you to maybe answer. But let's take on these sort of questions, because there's many built into one. Let's take them on one by one. Okay. So one, this whole idea about refuge based on fear. So we haven't gotten into the module on refuge. It's coming up. I think should be the next module. Whether we do it in that order, I'm not sure. But in any case, module 7 in the normal presentation of Discovering Buddhism is on refuge. So there, they talk about a refuge based on 2 causes, right? And so normally they say fear and faith in the 3 jewels to protect you from the fear. Okay? So now, right? So then in the Lam Rim, when it says, okay, we because we're afraid of the lower realms, then we need to take refuge in the 3 jewels. Okay? So the motive here is to act from fear. We always have a choice. We can act from different motives. Why not choose a positive one? Okay. So here's my first question then back to you. Is the fear, right, of the lower realms motivating us to take refuge in the 3 jewels? Is that a positive motivation? Eve. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I got it. For me, it's a positive motivation in the same way that when I go to Walmart, I wait for the walk sign because I don't want to get, thrown 50 feet in the air by a car that's going down Monterey Highway. So fear is, I think it's a good guide for, if I want a certain consequence and one is unpalatable, I can use fear to say, no, not that. And so it's a good motivator. I think, if you're afraid of things that aren't going to happen, that might be irrational fear. But I think this is a rational fear and I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So even to build on that, remember when we talked about the 3 motivations in Lam Rim, right? We have these 3 capable beings, these 3 levels of practitioner, right? And the motivation of the small scope practitioner is, right, that they're afraid of being reborn in lower realms, right? They see the relative disadvantages of being reborn there, the relative advantages of being reborn in the higher realms, and therefore they engage in the practice primarily to attain a good rebirth in the next life, right? So we had set as the kind of bar of dharma, what makes a motivation dharmic or not, is, you know, the minimum bar is that you actually have to have a sort of more interest in one's future lives than this life, right? So later we'll talk about this when we talk about refuge. But see, when I normally present refuge, I say, okay, fear, it's not like, you know, some kind of phobia, like, you know, you're paralyzed by that, but rather it's, you know, you see, you look at the situation and you see something you don't want to experience, and you see something else you want to experience. You inquire, okay, if I don't want that one, what are the causes of it? Okay, and I want to abandon those causes. The other one I do like, oh, what are its causes, and how do I get there, right? So actually, all three scopes, we have the small scope practitioner, the medium scope practitioner, and the great scope practitioner. They all have different sort of, you know, refuge, right? Different motivations. They have different motivations for all their practices, and therefore, of course, the practice of going for refuge also will be different, right? So the middle scope practitioner, right, also has fear, right? Their fear is the fear of all of samsaric suffering, okay, right? And well, you can present it different ways about the bodhisattva practitioner, but you know, what they're afraid of, in one sense, is not being a Buddha, right? Right? They're afraid means they see the relative disadvantages. Oh, since I'm not completely enlightened, I'm not able to work for the best, you know, benefit of all sentient beings. Sentient beings are suffering so much, you know, that's unbearable to them, right? The thought of that is probably, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of times more kind of fearful, more unbearable than the thought of a small scope practitioner being reborn in the lower realms. You understand? So then based on that, they say, okay, well, how do I get rid of these obstacles that prevent me from being enlightened? How do I become enlightened? And because of that, therefore, I'm going to take refuge in the, you know, in the three jewels. Okay. So, yeah, just in this question here, why not choose a positive one? So here, you know, Lama Zopa Rinpoche calls it, you know, the useful fear, right? So some fear, yeah, is a, as Eve was rightly pointing out, some fear you would have to say is an afflictive emotion, right? But other types of fear is based in, you know, kind of fact, is based on in reasoning, right? So the whole teachings on impermanence and death too, so the remembrance on of the fact that we're going to you know, die, we don't know when we're going to die, right? All of that, you know, it should bring some you know, change in our mind. Maybe you can label that fear, right? But you know, the point is, you know, to a certain extent, that's useful, because we then stop our, you know, procrastination. We stop our natural tendency to be lazy, right? If we're too sort of, you know, paranoid and like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna, you know, there's no cars left or right, but I'm not gonna, you know, go out of my house. I'm not gonna cross the street. I'm not gonna do any of these things, you know. Then that can be too much, right? And that is afflictive. Okay. So, so here then, you know, to say that, you know, fear only brings more fear in the future. So again, we have to keep the afflictive fear versus non-afflictive fear separate. Okay. And then why not use clean water from the very beginning? But I will say this, okay. So although when we are, going through this text, and now we are in the practices shared with the small scope. Okay, so although they are saying, describing this, all the, I mean, we didn't go into it too much in this class, but in general, in the Lam Rim, they describe in great detail all the various hell realms, all the various sufferings beings have there. They also discuss the hungry ghost realms, all the different things, right? So for a full-fledged lower scope or small scope practitioner, okay, then yeah, they would just keep their motivation at that, right? But now, even us, right, aspiring Mahayana practitioners, right? So here, although we're even studying refuge, we're studying, karma, we're studying the lower realms, we do it like we did at the beginning of the class, right? And we say, oh, I need to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Therefore, I need to learn about all the practices that lead to enlightenment. Therefore, I'm going to attend this Lam Rim teaching, right? So, though in the lower scope section of Lam Rim, it's talking about the actual lower scope, we remember, right? These are the practices shared with the lower scope. And so we're trying to, bring, our, few sparks, few drops of something resembling a bodhicitta motivation, and we still bring it to our motivation from this, right? So this question, why not use clean water from the very beginning? Okay, so for us, we use the best, the most expansive, the closest we can get to full-fledged bodhicitta as soon as we can, right? But you have to also understand, for the full-fledged practitioners, who haven't really, ripened their mind to the point where they can even have some semblance of bodhicitta, then it's much better for them to at least get the interest in future lives. I think you remember from the Lam Rim outlines that the section on precious human rebirth. Okay, what was that outline like, right? First is to develop a an interest, right, in the students for making good use of this life, and then how to do that. How to do that is any of the three scopes, any of the three levels of practitioner. Okay, so we all do the best we can, and all practitioners should as well. If there is someone who is not at the stage where they can do a medium or great scope motivation, then this one based on fear is fine. 1 second. I really like this mug. Okay, so how is that answer? Was that satisfactory to the person who asked it? Hello? Yes? No? Okay. Great. Okay. So, oops. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. This slide should have been next. Okay. So then we have our motivation. Okay. Then just to review, where have we come from? Where are we going? So this is the outlines from the karma section of liberation, palm your hand. This is all review, right? So there's three main outlines in the section. I think about cause and effect in general, think about some of the specifics, and then after thinking about these things, the way to modify your actions. Okay. So in the first class, we did the think about cause and effect in general, and in that we went into the four main features. Okay, and then thinking about some of the specifics of cause and effect, and there we had think about the black side of cause and effect. Yeah, and in that we did how many of these? Just the first, the actual black karmic process. So in the last class, we went through the as it's normally referred to, the 10 non-virtues, and we talked about the four factors that need to be complete. We brought up a few kind of doubts, and yeah, now we are on number 2, the differences that make for heavy or light karma. Okay, so now here, I'm going to open up my Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. And if you also have it, it's good. You can follow along. Where is it? Okay. So it's on page 405 in the blue edition of Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. Okay. So we have, heavy by nature. If you don't have it, it's okay also. So here, the differences that make for heavy or light karma, we have heavy by nature. So in general, right, we have the 10 on virtues, 3 of body, 4 of speech, 3 of mind. Okay. So in the ones of body and speech, okay, of those 7, then by nature, the heaviest is killing. And then the lightest is idle talk, gossiping. Okay, and then as it describes in the text. So okay, actually, forget about the text. As you see in some movies, right? There's a like a bandit who comes up, right, and he points the gun and says, "Your money or your life." Right? Your money or your life. Okay, basically, give me your money or I'm going to shoot you. So, given that choice, then people say, okay, yeah, take my money, take my watch, whatever it is, right? Because what is most precious for everyone is their own life, right? Much more important than even all of their kind of material possessions. So that we know. Anyway, so like that. And then, gossiping, yeah, I mean, you're wasting time, but it's not like, like hurting someone else's feelings that you can do with, harsh speech and like that, okay? But when it comes to the 3 actions of the mind, then first one is covetousness, then malice, and then wrong views. So of those 3, then the worst is wrong view, right? And then second worst is malice. And then the lightest of those is covetousness. Okay. All right. So then there is heavy because of the intention. So yeah, that just means, when we remember we saw in these non-virtues, for example, in killing, you can have killing that's motivated by either anger, attachment, or wrong views. So then, depending on how heavy that affliction is that motivates that action, then the karma accrued by that action then becomes relatively heavy or light. Okay, and then heavy because of the deed. This means like how the action is performed. So actually, by the way, have anyone, did you look at this section in Lamrim Chenmo? Okay, not yet is the, I know this or this, it doesn't express not yet, but in this section in particular is a lot more extensive than Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. So there it goes into a lot more detail. But anyway, you just get some sense of it here. So here in heavy because of the deed, liberation in the palm of your hand says an example is killing sadistically, torturing, right? Or, when Lamrim Chim also talks about, forcing the person to do something they don't want to do, right? And then killing them. So like that. And then also, because of the deed, here it says killing an elephant is heavier than killing an insect, right? And actually killing a human is, worse than that, right? And then it says, right, killing animals with huge bodies is a bigger negativity because they experience greater suffering. And then, to do it in a way that, would cause a lot of pain, right? So, burning alive, this kind of stuff that would make it more heavy, okay? As to, because of the deed means how the action is undertaken, okay? And then heavy because of the basis. So here, the basis means the object, right? So then, there are what we call karmically potent beings. Normally, there are 3 categories of this, as explained in the text by Nagarjuna, the Precious Garland, where there's the field of kindness, the field of qualities, and the field of suffering, I think you translate it as, right? So, these ones are teachers, our parents, right? They've been very kind to us. Then, in general, the Sangha members or, Arya beings, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, they are, kind of heavy recipients for our deeds because of their qualities. And then, the very poor, the very sick, those are, heavy because of their suffering. So, yeah, that's important to keep in mind. Okay. You see a lot of those stories. I think I mentioned last time when we were talking about whether arhats experience suffering. Then, there's those example of Moggallana, who, was beaten to death because in one of his past lives, he, just mouthed off to his mother, kind of insulted his mother, saying, I think, may your head be bashed in or something like that. And then, due to the very heavy karma of that, he then, that's how he died, his own head being bashed in. So then, heavy because of always being done, in Liberation from Beyond, it only says idle gossip, for example, is heavy because one is always doing it, right? So, these are here now in the section on the negativities, right? But on the other hand, you can also apply it to positive actions. And so, even something like, okay, just a bit of advertising, okay? So, one of the practices that Lamzo Rinpoche has very much, he says, he puts his hands together and sort of pleads for his students to recite the Golden Light Sutra. Okay. By the way, coming up, I'm leading a thing through Tushita Dharmasala. I'm leading a 2-day program in the Days of Miracles about the Golden Light Sutra. So this is a little bit advertising, but anyway, it's good. Good advertising. Okay. All right. Anyway, to read the whole Golden Light Sutra, for example, is like, 4 hours perhaps. So most of us don't have 4 extra hours for practice every day, right? But so one advice that Lama Zopa Rinpoche gives is, to even read a few pages of the sutra on a daily basis. Okay. So then, because it's a habitual practice, you're doing it on a daily basis, then that becomes, more powerful because of always being done. Okay. Anyway, the point is, Yeah, these differences here, they work on the positive direction as well as the negative. Okay. And then last point, heavy because no antidote has been applied. This means, someone who never performs any single virtue, then it is, becomes quite heavy because, no antidote has been applied. We'll get into a little bit more of that later when we talk about how to purify negative karma. But in general, when we do virtuous action, especially when we kind of think about the negative actions that we've done and generate the 4 opponent powers, then that serves as an antidote for our previously accumulated negative karma. And that can, as we talked about with the Vajrasattva practice, prevent it from becoming heavier. Okay. So one thing here I noticed in the translation, so I'm going to switch the share screen, and it's on page, hold on, it's on page 406. Okay, you see this? Are you seeing the liberation of palm of your hand? No. How's that? Okay. This little phrase. Oops, can you see? None of our sins are not heavy, and we are always adding to their heaviness. Okay. So remember, now when you're reading, did anyone mark this passage as being like, what? What does that mean? No? No. So if you didn't, that means if someone were to ask you about it, then you should be able to say what it means, right? Yeah, since some are joining fresh from this session, I think in one of the early sessions, early modules, I mentioned some advice that the former abbot of Kopan Monastery, Lama Lundrup, that he gave to the other teacher Tenzin Lexo, saying that, when you study, make sure you are able to understand every word. So if you're supposed to understand every word, then of course you should understand every sentence. Right? So anyway, when I read this, I was like, none of our sins are not heavy, and we're always adding to their heaviness. I mean, so it just talked about how, among the 10 non-virtues, the gossiping is lighter than, killing and all the rest, right? So what does this mean? All right, this is my hypothesis. I then looked in the Tibetan, and it's weird because also in the Tibetan, there's these double negatives, right? It's weird. It's not proper. Shrunken white would have some problems with it, right? So what I think it means is that even the sins, right, that are not heavy are getting heavier every day. Okay. If we don't purify, right? I think that's the point. See, this is in the section heavy because no antidote has been applied, right? And then it talks about how these get stronger, right? So in general, even the sins we think aren't very heavy now, if we don't purify, if we don't apply an antidote, they will get heavier and heavier. I think that's the point. Does that make sense? Okay, Eve, Yeah.
So from the first sentence in that paragraph, it specifies the sins in the mind stream. And to me, that's what it means. It's like it's in our mind stream. And if it's there, it's going to be affecting constantly.
Right. So we you know, let's go back to the first four factors, right? It's like karma shows great increase. Okay. So the point is, yes, um, once even if we've done a small sin or a small negativity, right, and it's not heavy now, if we don't purify, if we don't apply an antidote, it is going to get heavier and heavier every day. So remember, this is the other advice. Don't just say, oh, it's just a small thing. Oh, it's just a tiny mosquito, I can kill it, right? But two, apply the antidotes. Okay. All right. Okay. Switching through here. All right. Then, is this right? Yeah. Then teaching what the results of these karma are, right? So here, in general, there are three, but the second one is divided into two. So we have first the ripened results effect, right? And what that means is, well, getting reborn. So here in the negative karma, it means to get reborn in one of the lower realms. And you know, here they say strong negativity, one gets reborn in hell realms. Medium negativity, one gets reborn as a hungry ghost. Small negativity, one gets reborn in as an animal. Okay. So then there's results congruent with the cause. And here, this is again divided into two. So there's experiences congruent with the cause and behavior congruent with the cause. So the experiences congruent with the cause is, for example, when one kills, then one will be killed. And yeah, you can pretty much figure it out for the rest of them, right? When you steal, then you know you will be robbed and so forth. When you you know, talk bad about others, people will talk bad about you. If you lie, people won't believe you, and so forth, right? And then behavior congruent with the cause is that, you know, you'll have a propensity to engage in such activities in the future. So here it says, you know, for some, you know, even kids, they have quite a liking for engaging in killing. Yeah. Oh man, I remember, yeah, when I was young, then like the day I learned about like when you put salt on a slug, you know, it'll have this kind of reaction. I was so fascinated by that. And here where I am in like, you know, tropical Hawaii, there's a lot of slugs at certain times of the year. And then I remember one day I was like, I went out and like, I don't know, 8 slugs I found. I was like, yeah, salt. Oh yeah, wow, that's so cool. You know, so that's what I mean, like having a liking, you know, for doing it. Whereas, you know, others you see, you know, even at a young age, it will be like, you know, not even harming a fly, a mosquito. So that's behavior congruent with the cause. And then there are the environmental results. So here, yeah, to be in a place, for example, from killing, they'll be in a place where there's war, there'll be, you know, drought, there'll be crop failure. So all of the conditions that would have you, you know, sustain life, then those are lacking in the place you find yourself in. Anyway, yeah, those are all listed on page, you know, 408. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, right? So yeah. So what that means is now we are, done with thinking about the black side, of cause and effect. And now we are on the next one, thinking about the white side of cause and effect. Okay. So, yeah. Here it should be, you should be able to figure it out pretty well if you understand the black karma process. Then, these four factors of the basis, the thoughts, the action, and the final step. Those are all there as well. But one thing to think about, okay, I will just bring it up here on the liberation plan. Oops. Yikes. Okay. Okay. You all see this, right? Okay. So merely refraining from committing the 10 non-virtues will not complete the white karmic process. Okay. The complete process is defined as identifying the 10 non-virtues, refraining from doing them after seeing their drawbacks, then having the thought of abandoning them, the ultimate form of restraint. The virtue of not killing, for example, has four parts: the basis, motive, deed, and final step. Take the white karmic action of not killing sheep. The sheep is the basis. Okay. You see the drawbacks of killing the sheep and want not to kill it, thinking it would not be right. This is a motive. Then this thought becomes even stronger, and you see that killing the sheep would be a misdeed, and you try to entirely refrain from killing it. This attempt is the deed of the white karma, of foregoing killing the sheep. The karmic process is complete when you decide that you will not kill it. You see the drawbacks of killing the sheep and think you will completely refrain from killing it. This is the equivalent to the karmic action of the body. This is the actual final step of the white karma of not killing a sheep. Okay? Got it? All right. So now, then the way this is explained, right? Okay, so I don't know about you, but when I go through life, I never have the thought, I want to kill this human being. Okay? Right? So it seems then, right? Now I do have a vow against it, but anyway, let's forget about that. It seems that, karmically speaking, you have to see a human, and it's better. It seems better to be like, oh, I want to kill. Oh no, but I shouldn't because it's non-virtue. Okay, I'm gonna not do it, and then decide, okay, I'm not going to do it. Then you get the karmic white karma of non-killing, right? But if the thought even doesn't cross your mind to kill, then you don't get any good karma. What do you think? Eve, you're on a roll today. I like it.
I know, I like these questions. So if you don't have the thought of killing a human, you can substitute like mosquitoes and fleas. And then you'd understand what we're talking about, your intention, your deeds and things like. I do that. I've stopped killing things in my garden.
No, that's very good. But I just read the previous section where it was like, for killing a human is so much worse. And then, an elephant is second, and then a flea is actually small karma, right? So I want the best karma of not killing, right? So I want to get the positive karma of not killing a human. So should I entertain thoughts? Oh, I want to, kill people, and then, okay, I'm not going to.
No, because that might not be what's in your mind stream. How about like being sarcastic and using harsh speech to a human, you might find your white karma there with some of the things that the behaviors that keep coming up for you.
Okay, but first, maybe all of you. So how I've explained it, when we read this all together, is that what we think? That you first have to have this, should I kill, should I not kill? Okay, I'm not going to, then refrain, and then we get the good karma, right? Right? I mean, we all read the same thing. Okay, so isn't that a bit weird? Okay, so Christine, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, so to me, it almost seems like you're gaming the system, right? It's like a video game. Like I'm trying to accumulate as many karma points as possible. So I'm just going to walk around and every person I see, I'm going to think, oh, I want to kill them, but I'm not going to kill them. And then that also seemed to be a little video game-ish as well when they talk about how you get more karma if you take a vow of not killing as opposed to just walking around not killing, which also seemed a little bit disingenuous to me. So I don't know if you can talk about that piece as well.
Huh. Disingenuous. Okay. Well,
Or I don't know,
we will talk about vows in a minute.
Okay. It just seemed like wouldn't it be better? Like, why don't I just get the good karma for not having the thoughts of killing to begin with? Like, why is that not as good as somebody who has to take a vow not to kill? Why do they get more karma points than I do?
Yeah. Okay, Mary Ellen, you have something to say. I'm not going to say anything quite yet. I like it to get a little bit more messy.
My question is kind of along the same lines, apart from killing, but so as you implement the practices and the philosophy into your life, your emotional world settles out a little bit. And so things that might have agitated you in the past no longer agitate you. So it doesn't rise in your mind and you don't have to apply the antidote because it's not there in your mind. Is that not creating positive karma?
Great. So we're all jumping on board and we're now arguing with this presentation more and more. That's good. That's good. Yeah, Shanti.
So Venerable, I think it's like you think that killing is going to harm that person, and so you desist. Like someone can be vegetarian for health reasons, or someone can be vegetarian because they don't want to harm the animals or give pain to the animals. So in case you're vegetarian, Lama Zopa Rinpoche says if you're vegetarian for health reasons, then you don't accumulate any good karma. So if you consciously think you're not going to kill because you're not going to harm that person, it's a bit different from just not killing, because then later on it can come up. So it's similar to taking a vow. You have analyzed why you're doing it. It's not a kind of unconscious thing. Though it seems counterintuitive, but yeah. I don't think every time you're not going to kill, you think, am I going to kill or not? But you think that, why am I not going to kill? It's just because I don't have the opportunity, or you're going to harm that person, or that it's a non-virtue.
Okay, thank you. James?
Okay, I had a similar thing where I didn't like the way the reading was saying, if you don't have the guts to give yourself to, like, an animal's attacking you, and if you don't have the ethics to give yourself to be eaten to the animal, then you kill it. So it's a sin to kill it. But or the discussion we had, is it a sin to kill if you have an infection or worms or something that might make you sick and you kill that, is that bad? But on the flip side, if you allow yourself to be killed by an animal, then you're not around to care for your kids and care for others and make a positive impact in the world. And that seems like a bigger sin. So I'm just struggling with this thing of you can't kill, even if it's for the greater good.
Ooh. Okay, Jorge.
I don't want to play devil's advocate, but I feel like the idea of getting points for not killing should be fair, because I don't think any normal person just walks around saying, I want to kill somebody. If you have to think about not killing somebody, I think, and restrain yourself from not doing it, then yes, you should get good karma. But I don't think any normal good person should be like, okay, let me just keep thinking about killing people and I'll get good karma. And if you do that, then you're not a good person then, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Mary Ellen. Yeah.
I've heard in some teachings that Lama Zopa, although I have not heard Lama Zopa Rinpoche say it, I've heard in some teachings that Lama Zopa Rinpoche has said that if you have a vow not to kill, then every being you see, you've collected positive karma by not killing them. But then I've also heard another Rinpoche say that's not the case. So yeah, a little clarity there would be good too.
Okay. Yeah. Venerable Palmo.
Yeah, I was going to say something along the lines of what Mary Ellen said, except that if you don't have a vow not to kill, then if you see something and you think, oh, maybe I'll kill it, and then you think, oh no, then maybe that's not such a good idea. At that moment, you get the virtue of not killing. But if you have a vow not to kill, every moment that you uphold your vow of not killing creates virtue. So whether you want to call it the virtue of not killing or the virtue of upholding the vow of not killing, which means you're not killing, there's a slightly different take on the way that the karma manifests each moment as you have vows. Because as long as you uphold the vow, you're creating the good karma of that vow.
Yes. Exactly. That's the traditional presentation. And did everyone hear that? Right. So there are these, traditionally how it's presented is, once you take the vow, then every moment that goes by, and I think here they quote Shantideva, where Shantideva is saying those who have taken a bodhisattva vow, then every second that goes by, even when they're asleep, even when they're drunk, some translations say even when they're not conscientious, but it really means when they're drunk, right? So bodhisattvas, they can get drunk, but they still have bodhicitta. Anyway, maybe bodhicitta is not motivating them to get drunk. Who knows? But they're getting the positive karma of upholding the vow, even in these other cases, right? Yeah, that's basically how that works. You don't then need to have an opportunity to have another living being in the space. So you can imagine these meditators who go off to the cave and put the boulder in front, and then they're just meditating. There might not be any other beings there, but they have the vow, and so every moment that goes by, they get the virtue, in my opinion, of upholding the vow. Mm-hmm. Right? And that is, do they also get the virtue of refraining from killing that is just described here? That's something to investigate. I would think not, because the four factors aren't there, right? So you can think of it this way, if the basis isn't there, right? I mean, let's put it the other way. You're let's say, on the deserted island, right? You're on the deserted island and one has a lot of lust come up, right? One is looking, and let's say even one is married and they're just so overcome with lust. They're so lonely on the island. They're like, oh man, I mean, if there's anyone here, I'll definitely commit adultery, right? But they don't have any opportunity, right? So that in some way then protects them. It's impossible for them to have a full, action of sexual misconduct because the basis isn't there, right? So if we understand that, then when we have the flip side, if you're in a place where there's, no other living beings, it also would be similarly, impossible to do the non-virtue of killing, but also the virtue of not killing. Right? The non-virtue of killing or the non-virtue of killing depend on there being a potential victim. But the vow doesn't. The vow is not dependent on there being someone there. The vow is dependent on there being someone to give you the vows. You need to then have the motivation to take the vows for the rest of your life. And then you do it. And then once the vows are generated and you continue them, then you get the virtue of upholding the vows.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, Christine had then the question, oh, well, why take vows anyway? So there's a few things. One is, right, when we have sort of analyzed, investigated, and then we come to the point where, hey, you know what? Okay, actually, let's put that aside. Let me give you a kind of worldly example, okay? All right, someone is trying to get on a better diet. Maybe they want to lose weight. And so they say, all right, I'm not going to, I'm going to cut out sugar. Okay. All right. Or smoking, whatever, right? Then, what I read, one of the best effective ways to do that is you then tell all your friends, I'm quitting smoking. You tell all your friends, I am, giving up sugar. Because then what happens? You go out, you start to light a cigarette, they'll be like, hey, what happened? Right? Like this. So there is some energy that comes in making a commitment, making it public, right? Because then there's a kind of, now here again, this shame, right? There's also positive shame. There's also negative shame, right? In the text, when they talk about when you think about doing a non-virtuous action, and then you think, oh, yeah, I'm a monk. I'm supposed to be, abiding by, pure morality. Okay, I shouldn't do this, right? And then you refrain. That's actually, that mindset is a virtuous mental factor, right? As is, by the way, so I forget which is which, but one they translate as shame, one they translate as embarrassment.
Mhm.
So these are very problematic translations because those words have a lot of baggage in our normal kind of parlance, right? But the other one is when you're about to do something negative and be like, oh, I was ordained by the Dalai Lama. I vowed to the Dalai Lama that I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to, kill a fly. Okay. Then thinking about the others and like, oh, when the Dalai Lama hears about this, oh, he'll be very disappointed or whatever, right? So normally, yeah, when we do it with our parents, maybe, I don't know, it's like guilt or something. But in any case, that can be a virtuous mind, right? If we're then refraining because of that. Why was I talking about all this? Oh, right. So taking the vow. Taking the vow, then, it gives us that external sort of positive reinforcement that then it gives us that little extra boost to do it, right? It's like, for example, you know, some years ago too, right? I was starting to eat healthier, and then I was like, you know, I'm mostly going to give up red meat. Okay, but it wasn't like 100%, right? So every once in a while, then, you know, my friends, I was living in New York, and you know, there's the New York steakhouses, so good. And they'd be like, oh yeah, we're going to, you know, Peter Luger's, hey, come with us. Like, okay, yeah, just this once. You know, it's been a while. So when you have it kind of like non-vowed, right? Where it's like not 100% commitment, then it's very wishy-washy, right? It can be like, oh, okay, well, yeah, maybe today, right? When we don't have a vow to kill, it's like, okay, yeah, I won't kill, but yeah, well, this mosquito came in just this one time, right? So the other reason for the vow is that kind of black and white, 100%. I'm not going to do it for the rest of my life. Also helps. It helps us that because we're a little bit weak. That's my thought. So now, by the way, you see all these things in kind of worldly life, right? Where, you know, there's this thing, there's an app, and, you know, you're supposed to work out every day. When you don't work out, you like pay $50 or something. Have you seen these? Okay. These are like, you know, they're using this psychology, right? Because we need that nudge in the right direction. And especially on these kind of big, important things like working out, where it's like, oh yeah, it's good for you. Yeah, I should do it. But what happens? Oh man, you know, today I have a meeting, I have this, and I got, you know, got to pick up the kids tomorrow, right? So in those cases, to have that little extra motivation can help. Anyway, that's what I think. We can talk about it more, but let's continue on with the text. Right? So did we brought up some doubts, and then I think I answered most of them, right? Okay. Right? So that was the okay, teaching the actual white karmic process, and then teaching its results. Those also you should be able to understand from you know, just doing the kind of opposite of the you know, negative karmas. So we also have those four, right? The ripened result, which means rebirth in the higher realms, then the results congruent with the cause. We have the experiences congruent with the cause. You know, so from refraining from killing, we have a long life. From refraining from stealing, we have a greater wealth. And then we have the behaviors congruent with a cause. So then, you know, the people who have refrained from killing in the past, they'll also, you know, not have a liking for killing in their future lives. Then similarly with the environmental results, so, you know, having refrained from killing, you know, you'll have a place where the crops are good, there's no war, and, you know, the conditions for life will be kind of readily available like that. So then C, teaching about the doors that unintentionally lead to powerful karma. So there is some overlap with the previous you know, discussion, but anyway, this one has four. In Lamrim Chenmo, I think there are 5 or 6, not sure. But anyway, powerful owing to the field. And then this is what we talked about, the field of qualities, the field of kindness, and the field of suffering. Right? And then powerful because one had been a candidate for vows. So this is something new. And what this means is, someone who is holding vows, then the other virtuous activities they perform also become more powerful. You understand? So even, myself as a, fully ordained monk, then the virtues I do, giving charity, right? Then that act of giving charity becomes more powerful. So I know many of you aren't quite going to become monastics quite yet, but many of you do have the Bodhisattva vows, and it also is described, the Bodhisattva vows or even the Mahayana precepts, right? The one-day Mahayana precepts. Then when one takes the one-day Mahayana precepts, then all the other virtuous activities are multiplied in their efficacy 100,000 times. So that's one reason why when when one does retreat and one's going to devote a little bit more time and energy in virtuous practice, it's very good to take the Mahayana precepts. And by the way, Losar is coming up on Thursday, and the first 15 days of that lunar New Year is extremely merit multiplying days. They're called the days of miracles, and so it's also very good to take precepts on those days. So tomorrow's the new moon day. It's also good to do then. So I myself, here we are, public commitments. I'm going to take precepts tomorrow and until the 16th of the Tibetan month, which I think is the 19th. Okay, so let me look at all of you. Who wants to do that with me? Yeah, Mary Ellen. See, positive peer pressure. Okay, that's it.
We have precepts out. We're offering precepts tomorrow morning. We'll be taking them from our altars at 6 a.m. Anybody who would like to join from the OCBC website.
Okay, we got one. All right, you think about it. Think about it. We might have to ratchet up the positive peer pressure in some way. Okay. So, like that. Then, oops, powerful because of the thing being done. All right. So what this means is then take, for example, the practice of generosity. Then, in the Lamrim, we'll come to it later, but there's the giving of material things. Then there's giving the protection from fear, giving love, and then giving dharma. So of those, giving the material things is the sort of least, and then giving dharma is the sort of greatest. Okay. Then it's also important to note. Yeah, liberation upon your hand. It just has 2 lines for that. But in the other texts, you'll see that, for example, giving dharma doesn't have to be. I think, Lama Tsongkhapa talks about this. It doesn't mean sitting on a high throne and teaching dharma texts, but even to give advice, to others that will help them sort of deal with their internal, emotional state. Hopefully, giving advice that they decrease their afflictions, right, or decrease their negative karma. That then also is the giving of dharma. Okay. And then lastly, powerful because of the intention. So this again is the 3 levels of intention in Lamrim. The intention to do something because one wants a good rebirth in the future. the intention to do something because one wants liberation, and then one wants full enlightenment. So of course the best is the bodhicitta, and therefore we should try to do as much as we can, even now. Okay, so I'm going to stop the screen share because this is it's there explicitly in the Lamrim Chenmo outlines. It's not explicitly there in the Liberation of Pamihan outlines, but Bogong Rinpoche does talk then about the throwing karma and completing karma. If you're following along, page 413, right? So this had been referred to the other week, right? When I asked, why does my hair turn gray? And then someone said, oh, it's completing karma. It's other completing karma of negative, deeds done in the past, rather than it being the, part and parcel of having been born as a human. So anyway, this terminology, right? The throwing karma is the karma that then, throws you into a rebirth. And then the completing karma then means, that which determines your experience, in that particular rebirth. So then you can have, the 4 examples. You can have a virtuous throwing karma, virtuous completing karma, virtuous throwing karma, non-virtuous completing karma, non-virtuous throwing karma, virtuous completing karma, and non-virtuous completing karma, as well as non-virtuous throwing karma. Okay, and so you should all be able to come up of examples of that. Yes. Just what appeared in my mind was, oh, this would be a good self-assessment question, right? Isn't it? Right? You guys think about that too, right? So you think about questions. When you think about questions as you're reading, you think about 1, oh, what doubts do I have? Then second level is also to think about, okay, I read this in Liberation of Pamihan, I read this in Lamrim Chenmo, or whatever kind of Lamrim text you're reading, and there's a different presentation. Why is that? And third is, if I were the teacher and I wanted to ask questions of my students that they could then, check if the kind of key points were assimilated, understood, then what questions would I ask? Yeah. And then there is this this other presentation, again, continuing down on 413. This is again more thoroughly explained in Lamrim Chenmo, but then it talks about here how a single karmic action can throw one into many bodies in succession, right? So one negative karma, right? It doesn't then, although we talk about the ripening effect being rebirth in the next life, it doesn't have to be just one. It can be, powerful enough to have 500 rebirths. And then there's the cases of many karmic actions can result in taking a single body. And that probably, I don't know. What would that mean? Okay, my thought is that, birth in these pure lands of the Buddha, we talked about it before. So particularly some of the pure lands of the Buddha, it requires to be, an Arya Bodhisattva to be reborn there. So that's what came to my mind. And then here, it also talks about the other types of karma. Karma, one is obliged to undergo. Karma that is, not obliged to undergo. Karma, one is accumulated through some actions done that accumulated no karma. Karma that one accumulated without doing anything. You see that? Bottom of page 413. Okay, basically, let's keep it a little bit easier to understand. remember how we had the 4 factors that need to be there. And we said, oh, those 4 factors need to be there for it to be a full karmic path, right? Yes, okay. So this is, I mentioned it then, but the full karmic path then is the one that is obliged to undergo, okay? If those 4 factors, are not complete, then it's not obliged, or not necessarily that you have to experience, but maybe, right? So you can see, just as an example, again, let's take killing. It's the easiest to understand. So remember, for there to be an action of killing, the 4 factors need to be complete. The final step is that the person dies, right? The other person dies. So let's say you had anger, you recognize there was someone, you wanted to kill them, you shoot them, but they go to the hospital, they're saved, right? So the full karmic path isn't complete. You don't have a negative karma of killing, but everyone would agree that that's a negative action. Probably for that, given the other factors, then you would experience something, some suffering in the future. Okay. Now let's flip it. Now, when we go through life, right, and we don't want to accumulate these negative karma that have the 4 factors there, well, we should also understand, like, for example, if we in a state of mindlessness, right, we feel the kind of itchiness on the neck, and we're like, oh, slam. Then, okay, maybe we didn't do so hard, and then we see the mosquito fall down into our lap, and it's still like kind of moving, right? And it's not dead yet. If at that time you generate regret and you think, oh, I don't want this mosquito to die, okay, then the karma gets lessened, because the motivation was not uninterrupted to the time of the final step. You understand? So in the text on Vinaya, it talks about this, that the motivation has to be uninterrupted till the time of the final step. Okay. Now, please don't then say, oh, this is a loophole, because we can just squat mosquitoes kind of gently, and then before they totally die, just generate regret. There's still some negativity there. Okay. But it becomes a little bit lesser than the full-fledged. You understand? So then, there's further presentations of karma one has accumulated through some actions done that accumulate no karma. Okay, so karma accumulated through some action isn't the ones that we normally think about, but actions done that accumulate no karma. Okay, this would be, for example, things done in a dream. Okay, things done in a dream, and then karma that one accumulated without doing anything. This, I wasn't totally prepared. I should have looked at Tibetan text, because this is strange, right? Karma that one accumulates without doing anything. Is there such a thing? Karma is action, right?
Isn't suffering action?
Okay, so bear with me 1 second. I am going to look at the Tibetan in the Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand and try to figure this out. It's strange. So this is, again, did anyone mark this passage as like, what the heck is going on? Karma that one accumulated without doing anything?
But it seems like it may be without, when they say without doing anything, is without actually taking an action. So
For example,
The mental, so mentally you think, oh, that person, I'm so upset with them, I feel like punching them in the face.
oh,
But you don't actually take the action, but you're setting that negative spin in your mind. It still creates a part of that negative karma.
mm,
You're using that in that way. So that's kind of like the way I see.
that is really good. That's really good. I think that's it. I've closed my Tibetan version of Liberation Palm Your Hand. So it's a little bit funny, the translation, because, you know, without doing anything, I think that means, you know, in the four factors, the deed, right? So that word for deed, I would have translated this, you know, karma that one has accumulated without having done the deed in the four factors. So since karma is mental intention, right? If you have that mental intention, I'm gonna kill, but you don't, you know, then go out and actually do anything, that's what it is. You still would have some karma, right? Because you thought and took the decision, I am going to kill this person, but you didn't actually make any preparations or physical actions to do. Eve.
Is that also like when you feel happy at somebody else's misfortune because you don't like them or something? Is that also a non-action, but it will incur a negative karma?
So that in general, that is something where you're going to accumulate karma. Whether that is what is being referred to by this phrase, I'm not sure. Right. So you guys understand, right? This practice of rejoicing, right? When you rejoice in you know, negative actions done, then you get the same karma as having done, right? So by the way, this is very timely advice. But I remember when the Iraq War started, the second one, okay, when that started, I was actually on retreat. I had the good fortune to be on retreat with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and you know, that night the bombing started, and you know, he made it very clear that you know, we shouldn't feel happy. We shouldn't feel happy about it. Or later, when you know, they killed Saddam Hussein, or you know, whoever, don't feel like, oh yeah, that's good, right? That's important. Okay. So now we have, oops. I missed something. Okay. In this section of being a candidate for vow, there's also this about the natural and declared prohibitions. Okay. So sometimes, you know, you'll see this distinction being made. And here is another, you know, interesting point for us to think about. Okay, so first, the natural prohibitions. Prohibitions of the first type, that means natural prohibitions, are assumed to be as follows. One of their features is their cause. One's actual motives are non-virtuous ones. Another feature is their nature. Their nature are sinful and they embody non-virtue. Another feature is their result. A part of their nature is that they are capable of ripening into an unpleasant result. No matter whether someone has taken vows or not, if these basics are present, that person will generate a prohibited sin. Okay, second. The declared prohibition is any karmic action or resulting obstacle that goes against a ruling, or we can say a declaration, right, made by the Buddha. they are assumed to be as follows. One of their features is the cause. One's actual motives are virtuous or neutral thoughts. Their nature is another feature. They embody a neutral nature. Another feature is their result. Part of their nature is that they are not capable of ripening into unpleasant results. Yes, got that? So for example, tomorrow we, at least two of us, maybe we'll get to 3, 4, 5 by the end of the session, but Mahayana precepts starting tomorrow, right? So of the Mahayana precepts, we have also a vow not to eat afternoon. Okay, so that's what is meant. It is just one of these declared prohibitions. Okay, if you don't have the vow not to eat afternoon, and you eat afternoon, it's, you know, it's not non-virtuous, right? In general, eating afternoon is not a non-virtuous action, right? Okay, but when one has taken the vow, then it becomes non-virtue. Okay, so that's the difference. Whereas something like killing is, you know, a non-virtue, whether one has the vow or not. That's the point. Okay, that's the kind of normal presentation, but let's look a little bit more here. Okay, so a little bit interesting. What does all this mean, right? When they're talking about declared prohibitions, one of their features is the cause. One's actual motives are virtuous or neutral thoughts. So, okay, next, their nature is another feature. They embody a neutral nature. Another feature is a result. Part of their nature is that they're not capable of ripening into unpleasant results. You got that? So now, another, how do you say, declared prohibition, right? Drinking alcohol, intoxicants, right? So now, when it says, oh, these are, hold on. One's actual motives are virtuous or neutral. They embody a neutral nature, and they're not capable of ripening into unpleasant results. So now when I read that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've taken the vow of, you know, no intoxicants for 20 years. Now I read this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have been, you know, having a nice pina colada this whole time. What's going on? They're neutral in the sense they can't, you know, ripen as a as suffering. They are not capable of ripening into unpleasant results.
Yeah, but Namjoon, got a question about
Yes.
that. The fact isn't about drinking or not drinking the alcohol. The difference is what you said about having the vow or not having the vow, because it's non-virtuous to take a vow and then break it. And it doesn't matter whether it's drinking or eating a saltine. If you take a vow not to eat a saltine for that, you know, day, and then you break that vow, it doesn't matter about the saltine, it's breaking the vow. So the habit then in your mind becomes the breaking vows.
Okay.
Not eating crackers.
Okay. But breaking it, okay, so there is a negativity, there's a fault there, okay, eating afternoon. But is it a declared or a natural prohibition? It's a declared prohibition, right?
If you take a vow.
If you've taken the vow.
Vow to
so
do
now,
it.
Yeah, so this is the doubt I'm coming with. So it is, you know, it's not a natural prohibition, it's definitely a declared prohibition. Now, when I look at Pabonka Rinpoche describing these declared prohibitions, they're saying the nature of these declared prohibitions is that they are not capable of ripening into unpleasant results.
It says part of the nature,
Right.
Venerable.
Okay. So
So by nature, they're not, but they will ripen into unpleasant results if you've taken the vow and break it.
It's not, I don't think it's the vow, the actual vow itself that you're taking. What ripens into an unpleasant result is the fact that you broke a vow. See, so you're making a mindset where vows become arbitrary. It's no longer a vow. Once you take a vow and you break it, you're cutting that vow. It's not which one you take, whether you eat the cracker or you do whatever.
mm,
It's the fact that you took it and you broke it, whatever it is, and like that. I think.
okay. Okay. Very good. Okay, but I wanna make sure, so everyone else. Now, this is just a little bit how I like to do things. Okay. Let's not, all of you, before we jump into resolving, okay, do we understand the doubt? Do we understand what on the face of things appears to be problematic, even though later we might resolve it? Okay, so that's the first step, right? So the problem was, right, we have these declared prohibitions, okay? And then in the text it's saying, oh, they're neutral in nature. They don't, they're incapable of ripening as suffering results in the future, right? Whereas in the beginning, when we said karma is definite, then it was from non-virtue comes suffering. So then if we say these declared prohibitions, they can't ripen as suffering, then are they not non-virtue? Okay, so yeah, we got that? Do we feel some discomfort? Good.
What exactly are they calling declared prohibitions? They didn't specify non-virtuous actions necessarily. So I think my first question would be, what exactly?
This okay, so this is, again, this is right from Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand.
Yeah.
And this is okay. It's talking, okay, there's also this division into natural and declared prohibitions. So now the right hand side of this slide, the second declared prohibition is any karmic action that goes against a ruling made by the Buddha or declaration. So
then you have to know what that is.
well, so then if we just take the Mahayana precepts, right? So killing, stealing, sexual activity, and lying, right? Those are natural prohibitions. Means they're not negative because one has a vow, right? If you look on the left, no matter whether someone has taken the vow or not, right? Those are negative actions. The declared is only those people who've taken a vow. So normally we think of it like this, right? Only if one has taken the vow not to eat after noon, and then they eat after noon, do they have this, karmic, action. That's the declared prohibition. Okay. So then we hear that, but then when we read a few lines later, they're incapable of ripening into unpleasant results. Then the question becomes, okay, well, it's karma, but if it can't ripen it into unpleasant results, is it not, non-karma? It's neutral. So it's neither virtue nor non-virtue. And isn't that strange? Because then, of the, heck, I have 253 vows, right? And so many of them would be in this category of just declared, prohibitions. Okay. Okay. So just understand what the heck is going on. Okay. I like that. Eve. Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
sorry, it wasn't unmuting.
no problem.
So let's take the example of drinking. So are you saying drinking is a declared prohibition and then something you might do in your drunken state would be a separate, like, could be a separate non-virtue that's, what was the other one? Declared and natural? Okay, so are you separating the drinking from the actions while you're drunk? So the drinking itself is declared and the actions you take, like getting all aggressive or something, is a natural prohibition that you've broken? I don't understand how
I-
drinking can have no bad effect. I think of it that it does.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. So right now we're allowing the doubt to kind of bloom, and so we understand, right? And then we're going to see how we can address it. Okay. One possible solution would be to do what you just did and say, oh, it's not the drinking that's bad. It's when you get drunk and then you start, breaking, beer bottles and creating a ruckus. That's the real thing, right? That is one strategy, but actually that's not the strategy we're going to employ, right? Because there's so many cases where it's just, saying that, remember, the final step, where would that be? Because it's the final step of drinking is when you swallow, right? And at that point, even if you're the so-called cheapest date, right, you wouldn't feel the effects for at least some minutes, right? So it can't be that the negativity of drinking only comes when one is intoxicated and does other kind of negative things. Okay. Anyway, I looked at the time and we're a little bit running short, and I want to open it up to some of your other questions. Okay. But here, you know what? I can kind of tell maybe you guys didn't read as well as you should have. Because if you had, okay, oops, then you would have seen, okay, this is page 411, and this is where I cut and paste. Okay, I cut and paste just from here. The left hand of the slide was this paragraph, and then right hand of the slide was this paragraph. Okay, so that was weird. But then you need to read the next paragraph. And so let's see. Okay. If you break a minor vow and the cause, that is your motivation, is linked to something non-virtuous, thoughts of ignoring your instructions and the like, you will then commit a sin and break a minor vow. That is a natural prohibition and a declared prohibition. If you break the minor vow only with a neutral motive, you break the minor vow by going against the ruling of the Buddha, but you do not commit the sin, the natural prohibition. If a monk kills an animal, he commits a sin, the natural prohibition of killing an animal, and breaks a minor vow. The declared prohibition for killing an animal is a minor transgression of the monk's vow. Okay? You see this? So what does all this mean? It seems, okay, I'm just going to mention, right? So it seems then, if one does it with a non-virtuous motivation, then breaking the vow becomes a natural prohibition, right? And then that has the ripening effect of, suffering. If you break the minor vow only with a neutral motive, you break the minor vow by going against the ruling of the Buddha, but you not commit the sin, a natural prohibition. So it seems those ones wouldn't ripen as suffering in the future because the neutral motive was there, right? So for example, we have a vow, monks have a vow not to light a fire, right? Lighting a fire is breaking a vow. But before we cook, right, we remember the vow. So we don't have this thought of I'm ignoring it. Then we say, okay, I'm going to light this for Dharma purpose, or lighting a stick of incense, right? I want to light incense for the Buddha. I'm going to make this offering on behalf of all sentient beings. Okay, virtuous motivation. So in that sense, it is not, committing the sin. It actually says, and this is one thing in the why perhaps the Tibetans a little bit. Some could conceive as being looser with the holding of the vows, but what it is that for a Dharma purpose, then one can do things that are against these declared prohibitions. One's motivation is virtuous, and then doesn't become a fault. And because of that, then you'll see, the Tibetan monks light fires, whereas I think in Thailand and other places they'd be very reluctant to do so. Okay. So I just want to go to this last paragraph, and then I want to open up to your questions. So here's something, and the next paragraph again is a little bit tricky. So such sins and broken minor vows may have the same nature, but they have different designations. No matter how much one applies some antidote, such as the 4 powers, to the broken minor vow, although one may be able to purify the sin having the same nature, doing this still does not properly restore the broken minor vow that has the same nature of sin. Also, even though one may properly restore the broken minor vow, it does not expiate the sin through the 4 opponent powers. If one does not expiate the sin through the 4 opponent powers, one still has not purified it. Okay? What does all that mean? All right. So this actually it applies more to the monastics. But in any case, this word sojong for the monk's confession ceremony. So-jong. Okay. So, okay, and actually the 8 Mahayana precepts is called the Mahayana Sojong. So means to restore. Jong means to purify. By the way, that jong is the same as the jong in Namjong. Okay. A little bit of trivia for you. Okay, so the point is, if you have broken a vow, even a minor vow, a monk needs to then go to Sojong to have the vow restored. Okay. But if one does that, even though you have gotten the vow restored, if you don't apply the 4 opponent powers, how do they say? One does not purify that negative karma unless one does the 4 opponent powers. So those 2 things have to happen. So similarly, when we do the Mahayana precepts, right, and through a lack of conscientiousness, one happens to break out into song, okay, after one is taken, then how one restores it is by doing the mantra of pure morality, Omamagashila, Sambarabarabaramashita Sapem, Bibukita, Bujadaradara, Samanta, Avalokte, Humpe Soa. Do that 3 times, and then the verse from Maitreya's prayer, you know, Trimgi Sutrim Kim Ching Sushin Namba Dadan Den Lom Semebe Sutrim Gi Sutrim Paruchin Zok Sho. Anyway, that's a Tibetan. I don't know how the English is translated. But anyway, there's that one verse. It's in the Mahayana precept text. So then having done that, the vow gets restored, right? But then you should also apply the 4 point powers, you know, to purify it. Okay. Eve?
Yeah, this is going a little bit over my head, and I know there's sections when I'm doing the readings that are like whoa, way over my head. And I think what's happening is, you know, I don't have a frame of reference of the vows, or you know, when I would take them and why and stuff at this point in discovering Buddhism. Am I right to just gloss over it, or should I be going into? I'm trying to make a relevance judgment here of what I would need to study versus what I just say, okay, this applies to somebody else.
The main point that I've just explained in the last 10 minutes, I think you can understand even without, you know, holding vows. There's like, you know, 2 things that has to happen. There's like a restoration of the vows, and then there's purifying a broken vow. So just know that there's 2 activities, and that's kind of enough. Yeah, but this does get, I mean, this is quite surface level compared to, you know, Lamrim Chemo. And then of course, in the Vinaya text, the text on monastic discipline, it goes into this a lot more. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's not relevant, but you can have some understanding at a very high level, and that should be sufficient for you. How about that? Okay. All right, so let's open it up. I do have a couple questions from the person that mailed them in. Does anyone have a pressing question right now, or we can go to those? Okay, let's do it. So, oh, we didn't quite get to this. We'll do it next time. All right. So you remember last week we were talking about, you know, Pobongo Rinpoche saying the best thing he's done for the Dharma is to, you know, stop the animal sacrifice. So then this person asks, as far as I know, many Buddhists eat meat. Why? What about ahisma and the direct instructions in the text not to do it? Okay, so many Buddhists eat meat. Why? So maybe because they think it tastes good, because it's readily available, anyway, because they think they need protein, anyway, like this. But the deeper question is, in general, in the you know, Tibetan tradition, it is quite loose around this. Whereas if you go to, say, Taiwan, the monastics take very seriously to be vegetarian. So one thing to know in all of this is what has been laid out in the Vinaya regarding the eating of meat. And so if you, maybe you know, but how the tradition was, still in the Theravadan countries, you see this, the monks going on the alms round with the begging bowl. And so the normal practice is, you know, the monks wake up in the morning, they walk out into the villages, and then the villagers, or whoever, it could be in a city too, they would then, you know, take something that they're cooking for themselves and put a, you know, ladleful or a spoonful in the bowl. Okay. So in the Buddha's time, there is a question whether the monks should accept that meat or not. And so the answer the Buddha gave was, okay, in order to allow the lay people given them the opportunity to practice generosity in relation to the Sangha, who we've seen is a, karmically potent field of merit, then they should take. Okay. But there are some prohibitions. There are some exceptions. So if you go out, right, and they say, oh, Namjong, sorry, I've run out of food already, but I'll tell you what, I have a goat in the back. I'm going to kill that goat and I'll make a nice goat stew for you tomorrow. Come back. Then the monk is not supposed to accept, not supposed to take, right? And in fact, it's a fault if they do. So any animal that has been explicitly killed for your consumption, you are not to take. Okay? So anyway, because of that, then it becomes interesting, right? Now we're in the 21st century, and the practice of going on alms round is not quite there. When I have been to Thailand a few times as a monk, and we did go out, and although I am vegetarian, you're still supposed to take it, right? So I would accept it. Then when we got back to the monastery, that food is then shared with everyone else. So even if you don't eat it, you should take it, so that the other person can accumulate virtue. All right, but forget about the alms round. Now we go to a store, right? We go to a restaurant, okay? And we have the menu. We can choose whatever we want, okay? So since the prohibition is meat that has been killed for my consumption, when I go to a restaurant and I order, I don't know, bacon double cheeseburger, okay? Is that in keeping with the Vinaya or not? Has that meat been killed for my consumption? Okay, so Shanti is saying no. Okay. So was it killed for human consumption? But not mine. Okay, the person in front of me in the line at McDonald's, was it killed for their consumption? Oh, what? It was killed for the person in front and behind, but not me? Come on. Was it killed for the customers of the restaurant? So I'm a customer of the restaurant. Was it killed for me?
You're
Okay.
also human,
Yes.
which was like the guy in front and the guy in back of you.
Right. So this is how we debate, Shanti, who was, by the way, on the intro, winter debate course presented by Sarah J. Monastic University. Anyway, so these are very problematic. Now, most Tibetans, how they would say is, you know what? They didn't have, the person who was killing didn't have the discrimination. I'm killing this for Tenzin Namjong. Because of that, it wasn't killed for my consumption as it relates to this Vinaya vow. But then it gets very sticky, right? Then we debate with them just like I did, right? So who was it killed for, right? If not me, if not the person in front, if not any of the customers who came to the restaurant that day, right? It seems strange.
What isn't something killed for whoever will eat it?
Yes, I agree.
If
I
you
agree.
are one of the whoever's, then you're in
Right.
that group.
Right. But the sort of prevalent interpretation of the Vinaya would say it has to be a specific, designation of you, Tenzin Namjong, eating it. If that wasn't the case, then there's no fault. You can eat it.
I think also in Tibet, the thing was that they couldn't find much other food, so they had to rely on meat. So
Okay.
it become a kind of tradition and habit, so they become loose about the interpretation, right?
Well,
Because it wasn't offered to you, you ordered it. It's not like you had a bowl and someone offered it to you
right.
that they had already cooked.
Right. So that's also there for sure. For sure. I'm just saying, directly answering this question, what is the interpretation? Then we can say, okay, why are they interpreting it like this? Doesn't it seem illogical, blah, blah, blah. Those have other factors. Mary Ellen.
Are you talking about accumulating the negative karma of killing that animal through the action of the butcher, or are you talking about the negative karma of breaking the Vinaya rule?
Well, this question, where was it? Right? So what about ahimsa and direct instructions in the text not to do it? So I assume, and many people in kind of beginner's course, they say, oh, wait, Buddhism is all about nonviolence, right? That's like kind of a headline, right? Ahimsa, nonviolence. And then everyone is eating, bacon double cheeseburgers. Well, no, not nonviolence. Beef momos, right? And there's a kind of, on the face of it, seems a bit weird. I think that's what the question is getting at. Okay. So anyway, we're almost out of time. The point is here, right? According to the interpretation of the Vinaya, because the Buddha didn't outright, prohibit the monks to eat meat, only prohibiting the one like that case where someone goes into town, says, I have a goat I'm going to kill for you to, come and eat tomorrow. And then when they apply that, they then say, oh, well, these examples of the restaurant or the butcher shop, it's not done with that thought. It's for Tenzin Namjong. Therefore, it is allowed. Then, of course, what Shante was saying, to be honest, some people, have a liking for it. Some people, have some kind of strange views that, nutritionally, you can't get sufficient nutrition if you just eat, vegetarian. So those factors play in. But the kind of interpretation of the vows is like that. Okay, we're almost out of time. It means we have 45 seconds left. But this last question, I'll just say, so interesting topic about environmental results. It turns out that the problem with ecology is a result of our collective karma. Therefore, does it not matter to work with external results, but need to work on our own virtues? This leads me to a more fundamental question. If my whole world is projected in my mind, is there any chance of real interaction with external objects, or am I just watching a dream? And can I only work with my inner content then to change and observe the reflection outside? A super deep question.
I think that's a question we should contemplate and discuss next time, because it's time to go.
That's right. So I'm leaving that
That's
as
a very, very, very intricate and deep question that
oh yeah,
lots of thought. So it's, I think, a good idea for everybody to contemplate that.
yes. So we'll do that. I wanted to leave with that and give you things to think about over the next week.
Could you put that slide up again?
We'll send it out. We'll send it out. Don't worry. So yeah, we'll send it out, Marianne. I'll send it to you very shortly. Okay, so we got to end. So let's just do a quick dedication. So please dedicate in this way. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teaching and all transmigratory beings, and may it especially cause the essence of perfect pure Los Andrapa's teachings to shine forever. And we can also dedicate in particular that this mind of bodhicitta arise in everyone's heart, right? As Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he used to dedicate like this a few years ago. He said, especially all the leaders of this world, right? Especially all the leaders of this world. And then after the bodhicitta has been generated in, their hearts, then may all their actions be totally motivated by this, only, thinking to benefit others as much as possible and never harming them in the slightest. Okay, so that's good. Thank you very much, all of you. And yeah, we'll see you next week. We'll send out this question, the required reading, and yeah, maybe I'll send out the whole slides.
Good.
So you can have it.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you, Paramanandjang.
Thank you so much.
Okay, take care, be well,
Thank you.
meditate on
Thank you.
Nice and
bodhicitta.
real combo. Thank you, Mary Ellen.